Hey, what's up guys? So I'm making dinner and I thought I would just share with you a dairy-free, completely dairy-free slash vegan fettuccine Alfredo recipe. I've already made my noodles and the salad that I'm eating with it, so this is just going to walk through the process of making the sauce. It's made out of raw cashews, so I can't necessarily vouch for the fact that this is healthier than regular fettuccine Alfredo because obviously cashews still have a lot of fat, but it's plant fat, which some say is better than animal fat. I think the jury's still a little out on that. I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist. I just know that this recipe is super yummy, and especially if you are sensitive to dairy, if it gives you a tummy ache sometimes like it sometimes does me, or if you just stay away from eating dairy for other reasons, which is fine too, this recipe is awesome. One thing to note, you do need a high power blender, so like a Vitamix or a Ninja. I have a Vitamix and it works marvelously. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that goes in this obviously is cashews. I'm not measuring anything out because I've made this before, but you're gonna want like half a cup if you're serving like 3 or 4 people, I would say. So I'm putting those into the blender. So yeah, half a cup of cashews. And then the next thing you're gonna want is cashew milk, and you don't want it sweetened and you don't want it flavored. So this is just unsweetened, unflavored cashew milk. There's no vanilla, nothing. You just want it plain. So you're gonna pour that up in the blender too. I would say this goes about, let me pour it before I tell you. I'm gonna say 3/4 of a cup of that. So that's what we have so far, just cashews and cashew milk. Put more cashews in there. Okay. The last thing, well not the last thing, but the next most important thing besides like the seasoning and stuff is this nutritional yeast. It's Bragg's nutritional yeast, and it's important because it's just a standard seasoning, but you will probably have to find it on like the natural foods aisle or something like that. In Kroger they always have it on the natural food aisle, but this is basically deactivated yeast that has a very cheesy flavor, and so that's why we're adding it to this. Now for something like mac and cheese, I might add a lot more. For this I'm going to do about 1/4 of a cup. Yeah, so that's about how much you should have in there. A little bit more. Okay, the next part is kind of up to you, but you are going to want to season this a lot because right now with what it has in it, it's going to be either bland or sweet, or too sweet. You know, I know like Alfredo sauce is a little bit sweet, but it's not like, you know. So we do need to add like salt, garlic powder, some Italian seasonings is what I like to do, but definitely a little bit of salt and some garlic powder. And I use a ton of garlic powder, so I started buying this brand. This whole thing is $1. Oh! This whole thing is $1. And I use so much garlic powder that this is what I stick to because I cannot afford my lifestyle of garlic powder. Okay, that was probably like a whole tablespoon of garlic powder, and now a little bit of salt. Okay, that was probably about a teaspoon of salt, I would guess. And then the next thing you're gonna do is just blend it up. Oh, I forgot to put some Italian seasoning in it. Okay, be prepared for the noise. before I go on to the next step, I always like to taste it so that I can make sure I got everything just right. And it's pretty good. So definitely use raw cashews for this. I used roasted salted cashews because Walmart was out of raw cashews. I've never done it like this before. It's still fine, but if you do that, just make sure you don't add a lot of salt, because that was a little bit salty, but not too salty. More than I like it. I'm not a salt fan. Okay, so the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna have a heated up saucepan ready. Let's put you up here. And you're gonna want to get a whisk, because this is what you're gonna do to thicken it up. So I have this whisk right here. Oh, I have my sweater. I was like, what is that? That was my sweater. Okay. Here. So at this point, your sauce will obviously probably be cold since you just used cashew milk as the main thing in it. Okay, so we pour it in there. It can be kind of slow sometimes, so sometimes I'll tip it over and wait for it to pour out completely, but since I'm making a video, I won't do that right now. And then you're just going to want to whisk it until it gets thick enough. So that's what I'm doing right now. Now, I did come up with this recipe on my own, but the idea of using cashews as like a cream or cheese substitute is not new. Pretty much everywhere online, if you look up a vegan or dairy-free mac and cheese, it's going to involve cashews in some way. The only thing that really sucks about it is that you do have to have like a good blender, or else you're going to get like chunks, you know what I mean? And you don't want that, obviously. You don't want fettuccine alfredo with chunks. So yeah. Now while that's heating up, I'm going to talk about the salad that I made because it was so good. I got arugula just a second ago from the grocery, and I picked up a pear because for some reason I remembered my freshman year of college, on Valentine's Day, me and my floor in the dorms went to this really nice restaurant called The Edge in Atlanta, and I got a salad and it had like spiralized pear on it, and obviously I didn't spiralize my pear because nobody has time for that, but it stuck in my head because it was arugula and pear, and for some reason it matched really well together. So for this salad, it was arugula, pear, avocado, and then the dressing I made out of like a little bit of olive oil and then a lot of orange juice from an actual orange, like squeezing out about a fourth of an orange, so like a wedge. And then I put garlic powder, salt, and Italian seasoning in it, mixed it up, and then poured it over. That's what it looks like. My Alfredo will be going there. Always want to have more greens than pasta. So, or at least I try to, usually. Yeah. So this should be heating up now. We're still whisking it. And it is going to be a little bit more yellow, so because of that nutritional yeast. I'm going to take a taste of it to make sure it's good. It's perfect. Not quite hot yet, so I'm going to let it sit for a while. Let's crank the heat up. So our oven, it seems to have like no in between. It's either like not hot enough to cook or so hot that your pot is spilling over. So I've yet to find that happy medium, but still trying. Okay, that should be good. So I'm gonna take my sauce here and pour it over my pasta. Just as much as I think I need. I'm not eating all this, by the way. I made a lot. Stir it in. and then I'll put it on my plate with my salad. Details that no one needs to watch anyway. So that was all that I have for you guys. That was the recipe. That's the whole process. I've been on the camera for 10 minutes, so that's literally how long it takes. As long as you're, you know, boiling your pasta and stuff at the same time, that's literally all it takes. So yeah, thanks for watching. Back